much recently, Robin Williams' widow revealed her late husband suffered from Lewy body dementia. It's a progressive and debilitating brain disease. She believes it drove her husband to commit suicide. In the last year of his life, she says he suffered worsening anxiety attacks, delusions, had difficulty moving. This isn't the first time Lewy body dementia has made headlines. Radio icon Casey Kasem was also diagnosed with the disease before he died. Nationwide, it's estimated that Lewy body dementia affects more than 1.4 million Americans, but many of those people are never diagnosed. So joining us now to talk about it is a man who's doing research and has for the past 30 years, Dr. Dennis Dixon, who's the lead researcher on LBD at the Mayo Clinic. Good to have you here. Appreciate it.
Thank you for the invitation.
Why is it often not diagnosed, or why is it often that the diagnosis that people get is so narrow that people don't understand that it's Lewy body dementia?
I think because it's really a mixed dementia. It has features of Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and also psychiatric features. So some of the patients get diagnosed as, for example, schizophrenia. Some of them get diagnosed as Parkinson's disease or as Alzheimer's disease. There is another subset of the patients that actually have very severe sleep disorder. And so they'll be diagnosed with a sleep disorder. And some of them have problems controlling bodily functions, so they get a different diagnosis.
So how do we better diagnose this?
I think we need to recognize that it is, has multiple different faces, and clinicians are getting much better at recognizing this. So the combination is more important than any one of the individual parts, because the individual parts can be seen as part of other disorders. But it's this unique combination that defines Lewy body dementia.
Now, you were privy to Robin Williams' autopsy and the coroner's reports. Anything in it surprise you?
I think from what is described, it sounds like fairly typical Lewy body dementia, which basically translates into brain pathology that has a mixture of the Alzheimer type changes as well as Parkinsonian changes. The characteristic feature of the brain pathology in Parkinson's are Lewy bodies. And Lewy was a German psychiatrist that studied the brain of his patients, and he discovered, like Alzheimer's, very characteristic changes in the brain. And those changes that occur in the nerve cells were then subsequently named after him. They were called Lewy bodies, referring to the sort of abnormal clumps of protein that accumulate in dying neurons.
Now, in doing my research, I found that therapeutic trials are few and far between. Why?
It's in part because there are no therapies that are actually available to modify the disease, but there are actually many symptoms that are treatable or amenable to treatment. The movement problems, the psychiatric problems, the hallucinations, for example, the sleep disorder. There are a number of drugs that are available, but there are no clinical trials that are systematically addressing those individual therapies in patients with Lewy body disease.
I don't know if I'm hearing you right. You can manage some of the symptoms, but it's a virtual death sentence?
It is a fatal disease. And it happens to be a disorder that progresses typically more rapidly than Alzheimer's disease, from the first symptoms to the death of the patient. So it's not a good diagnosis to have by any means. In contrast, patients with Parkinson's can live a full life from diagnosis, 15, 20 years or more. And many Alzheimer patients, even though they're quite debilitated, if they get proper care, they can have a long life as well. But because Lewy body dementia involves so many different aspects of brain and body function, that it leads to a shortened lifespan.
For people out there who have someone that's close to them, they've been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, but they exhibit these other symptoms, yet they haven't been diagnosed, what's your best advice to them?
Probably it would be to see a specialist that has some working knowledge of the disorder. And the reason for saying that is there are some medications that can be used for example, Alzheimer patients that start to have, for example, hallucinations. They may be given antipsychotic medications. Lewy body patients are especially vulnerable to antipsychotic medications, and they can actually have very severe reactions.
Detrimental effect.
They could actually die from the antipsychotic medications if they weren't aware. So it has to be given in very small doses. So.
Dr. Dixon, thank you very much.
Sure, thank
Appreciate you being here. By the way, in part, Dr. Dixon's research at the Mayo Clinic here in Jacksonville is being funded by a former owner of the Boston Celtics whose wife died as a result of LBD. If you'd like to learn more about Lewy body dementia, we're posting the link to Mayo Clinic's website on news4jax.com. Just look under the Morning Show page.